Are there any statements? And I call the member for Richmond.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I too would like to start by recognising all the victim survivors. I'd also like to acknowledge all of the other speakers as well from across all the different parties, and all of them speaking to rise on this very important issue on the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And Deputy Speaker, the Albanese government, indeed I know all members of this House as well, this entire parliament, is absolutely committed to women's safety, and the fact is that women's safety is a national priority. And this is a commitment I know we all share. We're all committed to ending violence against women and children in one generation. We know that one woman dies every 10 days at the hands of a current or former partner. And we know that each week police across the country deal with 5,000 incidents of domestic violence. And this is something that I know as a former frontline police officer, having attended hundreds of domestic violence incidents and seen firsthand the tragedy and horror that it brings. So ending violence against women and children is everybody's responsibility, and it is indeed everybody's business. And last Friday, of course, was the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and commenced the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And these 16 days really are a time for the world to unite and raise awareness and call for the prevention and elimination of gender-based violence. We must all be speaking out in this parliament, in our community, family, friends, everyone that we know talking about this issue. And Deputy Speaker, as the Assistant Minister for the Prevention of Family Violence, I'm proud that we, as a government, as a parliament and as a nation, are taking action towards ending violence today and every day. In line with this year's theme for the 16 days of activism, Unite Activism to End Violence Against Women and Girls, I implore everyone to unite and collaborate to make that change. Together we can all work to achieve that end. And Deputy Speaker, it is very important for anyone listening or reading this later on, if you or someone you know is impacted by domestic, family or sexual violence, to call 1800-RESPECT, which is 1-800-737-732, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And of course, if it's a life-threatening situation, to call 000. But reach out, particularly get some support. Now, as I said, Deputy Speaker, for our government, women's safety is an absolute national priority, and recently we launched the National Plan to End Violence Against Women and Children. And the plan, the 10-year plan, outlined our shared vision to end gender-based violence within one generation. And the plan is a strong commitment to 10 years of sustained action, effort and partnership across governments and the sector, working towards eliminating all forms of gender-based violence. And of course, we work very closely with all of the states and territories as well. Everyone is on the same page. And this plan, this 10-year plan, is underpinned by 4 very important pillars: prevention, early intervention, response and recovery and healing. And of course, what that means in practice is we need to stop the violence before it starts. We need to work with those people most at risk of experiencing violence, and also with those who may be prone to using violence, and we must provide support, most importantly, for the victim survivors in the short term and the long term. And the National Plan recognises that trauma-informed and person-centred approaches are needed to address a lot of the barriers to recovery and healing, and to minimise the possibility that victim survivors will be re-traumatised and harmed when using services and systems. They need to be getting the correct support when they do need it. The National Plan also provides clear indicators to track our success, to support and help in reducing the prevalence of violence. Now, Deputy Speaker, to support the implementation of the plan, we made the vitally important step of appointing the very first Domestic, Family and Sexual Violence Commissioner, Michaela Cronin, who has an extensive history in the community sector and is very widely respected. And Michaela Cronin has just started in that role. And the commission that Michaela Cronin will lead will provide a formal mechanism for consultation with victim survivors and work to create a supported and structured approach to engagement at a national level. And it's these voices, the victim survivor voices, will help to inform priorities for policy, research and data collection. Because the fact is, victim survivors have to be at the absolute heart of the solutions. We know that effective solutions can only be achieved and developed with the people that are most impacted by them. The Commission will also promote coordination across the state and territory jurisdictions in the sector more broadly to highlight service gaps, areas of greatest need, and to enable a system that works together to provide that holistic support. And this really importantly includes the development of consistent definitions for improved reporting, data collection and evaluation frameworks. And through all of this, the Commissioner will be able to monitor and measure the progress of the national plan. And of course, Deputy Speaker, as well, the Albanese government's recent budget committed $1.7 billion in funding for initiatives to support the implementation of the national plan. And really importantly, we're delivering on our election commitment of just over $169 million over 4 years for 500 new frontline workers, community sector workers. And these workers will provide support to those experiencing family, domestic and sexual violence right across the country. And these new workers will particularly meet service gaps, especially in our rural and regional areas. We know how important it is that often people in regional areas are very isolated, so we want to make sure that support is there for them. Now, this $1.7 billion package also works to address the structural issues that contribute in relation to violence against women, including some of the things we need to address: housing, women's economic security, access to childcare, paid family and domestic violence leave, and of course respectful relationships and consent education in school. All of these are vitally important. And in addition to our 500 worker commitment, as I said, that we made during the election and are delivering on, the Women's Safety budget package gives $100 million for crisis and transitional housing options, because we need to have more options for women and children who are experiencing domestic violence, and also for older women as well who are at risk of homelessness. We need to have that crisis accommodation in place. And also we have additional funding for the Escaping Violence Payment Program as well. And as part of all of that package as well, some of the key priorities that we are addressing is a commitment to an investment in consent and respectful relationships education. We need to have that in our schools, so at a young age people are becoming aware about this issue and about the need for respectful relationships. And of course our commitment of over $42 million to address sexual harassment at work by implementing, very importantly, implementing the recommendations of the Respect at Work report. And of course a commitment to support the implementation of our landmark paid family and domestic violence leave. So important. These 10 days will ensure that no individual should have to choose between having a job and leaving an abusive relationship. And we're very proud to be delivering on that as part of our absolute commitment to women's safety. And Deputy Speaker, as I've said and many speakers have said, ending violence against women and children, it's everybody's responsibility, and it is indeed everybody's business. And in line with the theme for the 16 days of activism, I implore everyone to keep talking about these issues, to keep raising them. For those that we know that are victims, encourage them to get support. We have to all work together to this end. And we have this strong commitment to eliminate violence against women and children in one generation. And I know that everyone, as I say, from all sides of this parliament shares that commitment in working towards that goal. And we have to achieve it when we look at those statistics, when we look at one woman dying every 10 days at the hands of a current or former partner, when we look at police attending the 5,000 incidents per week. We have to have this change, and we have all of these measures in place since we have been elected. This is a national priority for the Albanese Labor government, and I know that our commitment is shared by everyone throughout this House.